Linxin is a well-known company that made Plants Vs Zombies Plushes, and today we're not actually going to be looking at a set made by them. We're actually going to be looking at a company that basically stole their plush designs. This company that stole their designs is unknown what the actual name is, and people usually call it Linxin 2, even though it has really no connection to Linxin at all. So yeah, most plushes listed are basically stolen just from Linxin, but with slightly different designs, but there are actually some unique plushes in this set as well. So with that said, welcome to a look at the Linxin 2 Set 1 plush set. Now let's start off with the first plush in this set, which is the Peashooter. Now one thing that you notice about these plushes is that the leaf bases are actually a little smaller than on the original Linxin versions. They're also just a slightly different shape overall. Also, this Peashooter plush has no ring around his neck, which is inaccurate to how the Peashooter is supposed to look. His eyes are also facing opposite directions, which overall looks really weird, and I think it would have made a lot better if they just made it look, normal looking instead of making the eyes look all weird. But yeah, besides that, they did a pretty good job making the rest of the Peashooter plush, and overall looks accurate besides those few things that are missing about this plush. Now, if you want this plush to be, you can basically find them anywhere because, well, you can find this on eBay, Mercari, AliExpress, basically everywhere because most plushes in this set are extremely common. Now let's move on to the next plush in this set, which is the Sunflower. This uses the same leaf base as the Peashooter and also the same exact stem. Now, the Sunflower has a brown face and it never actually came in a light face version like the Linxin version. And the petals are pretty accurate and made of the same material that Linxin's are. And overall, the embroidery on the face is pretty good, and overall, that's all there is to really say about this plush because, well, it's basically the exact same as Linxin besides like the leaf base and a few details on the face. Another difference about this plush is that the Sunflower seems to be looking up on some versions of this plush, so yeah, like the Linxin Sunflower kind of looks straight, while this version kind of looks up a bit more. But besides that, this plush is basically the exact same as the Linxin version. If you want it, look on basically any website like eBay, Mercari, AliExpress, basically everywhere you could find this plush. Now let's move on to one of the most simplistic plushes in this whole set, being Walnut. Now overall, this Walnut plush is pretty good because, well, it's just a walnut. It's one of the easiest Plants vs Zombies plushes to make. They did a good job making the shape all look correct, and overall they did a good job embroidering the face on, and the inside of the eyes are made out of a felt material so that could get damaged. And this plush actually seems to have better quality control in the shape because, well, the Linxin version kind of has like different shapes sometimes because, well, it had worse quality control, but this plush is usually just a circle like all the time. Another thing worth noting about this set is that it didn't actually have any colored strings, unlike the original Linxin plushes that did have colored strings. But yeah, overall this is probably the simplest plush in the whole set, and you can basically find it everywhere. Now let's move on to the next plush in this set, which is the Snoopy. Now there are actually two versions of this plush which have slightly different features on the eyes. One version has the eyes facing like normally like the Linxin version would, and the other version has the same eyes as the Peashooter, kind of looking like separate directions. But yeah, besides that, this plush is basically an exact copy of the Peashooter. It uses the same leaf base and stem and uses the same head shape, and it's the only really thing changed about the head is that the color is slightly different. Also, the spikes on the back are there on the Snoopy, and the spikes on the back of the Snoopy's head are made out of a felt material so they could get damaged. Also in the eyes there's the necessary eye shines for Snoopy. Overall, they did a pretty good job turning the Peashooter plush into a Snoopy plush and making it look accurate to the Snoopy and like making the Peashooter look slightly different. Which isn't done by all companies because some companies basically use the exact same design on both plushes. Now let's move on to the next plush in this set, which is the Chomper. Now unlike Linxin, they didn't make three different designs of the Chomper. They only made one design of it, being it based off of the first design of Chomper. And well, I would say this is probably one of the worst replicas to like a Linxin plush. Overall, they use the exact same leaf base and stem on the other plushes, and the face overall is just really small and has a lot of details just crammed onto it. I think part of the reason why this plush looks so bad is that, well, the head is too small to fit all the details on it, so they just kind of cram them all together, which makes it overall look pretty bad. The spikes on the head there are made out of felt, so they could get damaged, and also they're way too big compared to like the head. But yeah, I think it would have been better if they made the head a bit bigger so they could like spread out the details on the face a bit more instead of having them all crammed onto like one spot. The football zombie is also a bit smaller on this plush than the original Linxin version and is made out of felt, so it could get damaged. But yeah, this is probably one of their worst jobs of like replicating a Linxin plush because, well, they just did it completely wrong. And well, I would definitely not recommend getting this version of the plush and instead getting like the actual Linxin version because this version is a lot worse than the Linxin version. Moving on from daytime plants onto nighttime plants, being the Sunstream. Now this plush is actually the only nighttime plant in this whole set, and overall they did an okay job making Sunstream. It's really not that good of a plush, to be honest with you. Now the face on the Sunstream is basically the exact same as the Linxin version, but the head of the Sunstream just kind of ruins this whole plush because, well, they used the wrong colors on this plush. On the Linxin version of this plush, they use a brownish color for the spots on the Sunstream, but instead on this version, they use like these dark brown or like black spots on the Sunstream, which isn't accurate to the game. And overall, the top of the Sunstream is just kind of like really small because, well, on the Linxin version, it's really wide and it looks better than this version. Overall, just like the Chomper, they did a pretty bad job copying the Linxin version and making their own plush. And just like the Chomper, I would definitely recommend getting the Linxin version instead of this one. Now moving on from the nighttime plants onto the pool plants, being the squash. Now I would say they actually did a pretty good job making this plush, especially on like the detail part. Now on the Linxin version of the squash plush, some could be like really flat and really undefined, but as you can see by these pictures here, the bottom of the squash is really defined and you could really see like that they did a good job making it like more detailed. So that's one great thing about this plush compared to the Linxin version, and overall they did a great job embroidering the face on, but it is a little small because this plush is smaller than the Linxin version, just slightly. Also the squash seems to be like a bit wider on this version than the Linxin version, but besides that it's the exact same as the Linxin version. Overall this plush is actually pretty good, especially on the definition of the plush on the bottom. And out of all the plants in this set, I would probably recommend getting this one out of the most of them because, well, it actually does add some more details from the Linxin version. But now let's move on to the next plush in this set, which is basically an exact copy of the Linxin version, being the Jalapeno. Now this plush looks very, very similar to the Linxin version, except there is like one slight difference on the Jalapeno. Is that, well, the Jalapeno on this plush is a bit wider and the face is a little smaller. But besides that, it looks the exact same as the Linxin version, besides like the tags and stuff, obviously. But yeah, I would say they did a pretty good job copying the Linxin version and putting it onto this plush. But just like the Chomper and other plushes in the set, they made the face just too small for it to look accurate. And also on this plush, it seems like that the bottom of the Jalapeno could get really understuffed sometimes and could end up just looking bad overall. So that's another problem with this plush. But yeah, the Linxin version is probably the better version of the Jalapeno compared to this one, and I would recommend getting the Linxin version because, well, it's not that hard to get the Linxin version of the Jalapeno. Now let's move on to the next question in set, which is the kernel pult, specifically the textureless kernel pult. Now, unlike Linxin, they only made one version of the kernel pult because, well, Linxin made tons of versions of kernel pult, unlike this company. But even though they both did make textureless kernel pults, this one looks a lot worse than the Linxin version. And well, it was quite easy to tell the Linxin 2 version and the actual textureless kernel pult. First off, the Linxin 2 version, the embroidery on it is just very thick. Like, they made the embroidery just too big to look accurate to like the actual textureless kernel pult. Also, the leaves on the plush are just glued up way too high, and on some versions of this plush, they're kind of like covering the eyes mostly. So yeah, that's not really a good thing about this plush because, well, it's part covering like a good amount of the eyes. But besides that, they did a pretty good job shaping the plush, and overall, it looks okay for being a copy of a rare plush. But yeah, do be careful on eBay if you want a textureless kernel pult, because I have seen some people try to pass this off as the real textureless kernel pult, even though it's clearly not. Now let's move on to the next plush instead, which is the marigold, and they only made the dark face marigold and not the light face marigold like Linxin did. It uses the same leaf base and stem like other plushes, and overall, they did a pretty a good job with the face. It seems like on the sunflower in this plush, they made the head just look straight up for some reason, which overall is a really weird choice for them to do. But besides that, all the details and embroidery on the face is pretty good, and the petals are also pretty accurate. And overall, I would say that they did a pretty good job taking the Linxin marigold and making it into their own plush. But still, because of the leaf base and the plush just looking up, I would definitely recommend getting the Linxin marigold instead of this one. Now let's move on to the next plush instead, which is the Melon P. Now, overall, they did a really good job copying the Melon P plush from the Linxin version, besides the fact that they used the wrong leaf base. But besides the fact that the leaf base is weird, they overall did a pretty good job making the Melon P shape. And the Melon P has all the correct details, and overall is a pretty good plush in this set, and they did a great job turning the Linxin version into their own version. So yeah, unlike other plushes in this set, if you can't get the Linxin version, this version is actually a pretty good replacement for it, unlike others. But yeah, if you could, I would definitely recommend getting the Linxin version, but this one is an okay replacement for it. And now let's move on to the final plant plush in this set, being the Apple Bomb. Now there's actually two versions of this plush, one looking really good and the other looking really bad. Let's start off with the really good version being this version of the plush. Besides the fact that the leaf base and the stem is wrong, the face is overall extremely accurate and they did a great job making the head of the Apple Bomb. And if you compare it to the Linxin version, it looks pretty much exactly right on the face. And I would overall say that they did a great job making the single cherry on this first design of the plush. Now on the second design, they did a pretty bad job because, well, the face is just overall too small. I don't know why they changed it, because they had it down on the first version pretty well, but this version overall looks really weird and overall just isn't that good. So yeah, I would definitely recommend getting the first design more than the second design, but overall you should probably just get the Linxin version overall because that's the best version. But now, moving on from the plants, let's go to the zombies, starting off with the basic zombie. Now, this plush is pretty similar to the Linxin basic zombie, except there is a few changes about it. First off, the face is slightly different because, well, the face is just slightly smaller and the details seem to just be more crammed together. Also, the mouth is just slightly different on this plush, and you could clearly tell like the Linxin version from this version. Also, the clothes on this plush seem to be of a lower quality material than the Linxin version, just slightly though. Also, the button on the coat of this plush is way too big, like for some reason the button takes up a huge amount of the shirt on some of these plushes. Also, a very noticeable difference is that the zombie actually doesn't have defined fingers on it. You see, on all the Linxin zombies they had defined fingers, but on the Linxin 2 versions they didn't bother to do that in most plushes. But yeah, overall this is just a lower quality version of the Linxin basic zombie, but overall if you can't find the Linxin version, I would definitely recommend getting this one because overall it's really not that bad of a plush. And overall, it's pretty similar to the Linxin basic zombie. Now let's move on to the next zombie in the set, being the Cone Zombie. Now, just like the basic zombie, the main problem on this plush is on the face. For some reason, they made the face just too small on this plush, just like the basic zombie, and they also just kind of like crammed all the details together. Also, the cone on these plushes seem to be in a much lighter orange material instead of being a darker orange, which is just a slight difference that I noticed. And same thing with the button on the coat. For some reason, most buttons on these plushes are super big compared to the coat itself. And also, it's missing the defined fingers. But besides that, it's a pretty solid replica of the Cone Zombie, and if you can't get access to the Linxin versions, I would definitely recommend getting this one. But overall, I would say that the basic zombie is slightly better than the Cone Zombie in this set. But now let's move on to the next plush in the set, which is actually pretty bad in my opinion, being the Hypnotized Zombie. Now overall, this plush is basically an exact clone of the basic zombie from this set. The only changes are clearly above the color of the skin because it's purple instead of gray, and also the coat's purple instead of brown. And same thing with the other plushes, it doesn't have defined figures, and also the buttons on the shirt is just too big. But by far the worst part about this plush is the eyebrows. For some reason the eyebrows are gray instead of purple. And overall I would say that this kind of just ruins the plush because, well, the Linxin version did a pretty good job making the eyebrows purple, and overall it made the plush look a lot better on the face. But on this version of the plush it has gray eyebrows, which is also inaccurate, and overall I think it just looks ugly in my opinion. So yeah, I would definitely recommend getting the Linxin version a lot more than this version. Because, well, they did a pretty bad job making it, especially because there's just one detail that's so simple to change. And it kind of shows that this company was kind of lazy when making this plush because, well, it was one simple detail to change. Now let's move on to the next plush set, which is the Newspaper Zombie. Now this plush is the exact same design of the basic zombie except with a few differences. The most noticeable is that it has a newspaper. The newspaper is made out of a felt material and could get easily damaged because, well, felt could get easily damaged. Just like others, it doesn't have a defined fingers, and also it has a slightly different shorts because, well, the Newspaper Zombie has different shorts, and overall I would say they did a pretty good job making the shorts on this version different than the basic zombie. And the glasses on this plush are made out of a felt material with an iron-on material on it, so yeah, two materials that could get easily damaged, so that's really not the best on this plush. They're also just stitched on, so they could fall off really easily. But now let's move on to the first unique plush in this set. All the other plushes in this set were copies from Linxin's, but this one's actually unique, being the pole vaulting zombie. Now there's actually 3 versions of this plush, all just having slightly different faces, being the first design, the second design, and the third design. The first design is by far the best, having like a normal looking face, and also is just unique compared to the others. Because, well, no other zombie has this face, and overall the second design I think is just too simplistic because it uses the eyes that are used on other zombies. And it kind of just takes away some uniqueness to the pole vaulting zombie plush. Same thing with the third design, it just takes away from uniqueness on the face. Also, the third design comes with a backpack clip for some reason. But yeah, besides the faces, all 3 designs of this plush are exactly the same. The hair and the band around his head are both made out of felt, so they could get easily damaged, and same thing with the rings around his arms, they could all get easily damaged. And overall, his clothes and shorts and everything are overall really good and really accurate to how they look in the game. And for being a unique plush, they did a great job making it instead of just stealing from Linxin. Now, out of all three designs, I would recommend getting the first design, but the first design is quite rare, so besides the first design, I would recommend getting the third design. The second design is probably the worst design. But yeah, definitely get the first design if you can find it. But now let's move on to the first design of the Guitar Zombie. Now there's two designs, one with black hair and one with brown hair. Now this was just significantly worse compared to the Linxin Guitar Zombie. The clothes and everything are the exact same with the guitar, and it just doesn't have defined fingers on it. But by far the worst thing about this plush is the face on it. Just look at the face, it just looks really weird and overall is not accurate. For some reason it used the wrong face, which is like the same face used on the pole vaulting zombie second design, but they just used the wrong face. Which overall I find really funny because, well, they just used the complete wrong face on this plush. Also, it seems like on most versions of this plush it's just kind of missing hair, and well, because like the Linxin version has tons of hair on it, but this version is just kind of like you losing hair on some versions. Especially because the hair on this plush is a really low quality material, you could just kind of pull the hair out of the plush, which is a really bad detail about this plush. Now for the second design of the Guitar Zombie, they actually changed the face, but still they got it wrong. As you can see, it uses like the third design pole vaulting zombie's face, but it's still incorrect to how it's supposed to look. And it's overall just really funny to see because, well, it seems like that this company just forgot how the plush's face was actually supposed to look because, well, they used the incorrect face twice on this plush. And besides the hair color in the face, this plush is the exact same as the first design, but just besides like the hair in the face of this plush. Also, the hair on this second design doesn't seem to just fall out like the first design. Also, the first design of this plush has a big size version of it for some reason. It seems like that this company made big sizes of some plushes and just didn't do others. It just seems kind of random, like they just decided to choose some random plushes in the set to make big size versions of them. Now let's move on to the next plush in the set, which is the Ducky Tube Zombie. And basically it uses the exact same design as the basic zombie plush except with a few differences. The most obvious one as well, but it has a ducky tube on it. The ducky tube is made out of like a felt material, so it could get damaged, but yeah, that's really the only bad thing about this plush. The tie is also made out of felt, it's just kind of like attached to his neck. Which is overall a pretty weird design because, well, it just doesn't really look that realistic to how it's actually supposed to look. And I don't know why they just didn't like iron on a tie like they did on the other plushes. The coat on this plush also isn't like made out of like a normal coat material that like on the other zombies. It actually is just like stitched onto the zombie himself. And there's also a big size version of this redesigned Ducky Tube Zombie. But yeah, overall, I would definitely recommend getting the old Ducky Tube Zombie made by Linxin themselves because, well, it's a lot better than this version. Now let's move on to the next plush in this set, which is the Dolphin Rider Zombie. Now this plush uses basically the exact same face as the first design pole vaulting zombie, except, well, the mouth is just a little different. But besides the mouth, the plush's face is the exact same as the first design pole vaulting zombie. And the rest of the plush is just wearing a red suit, which is just a normal plush material, and is also holding a dolphin that has embroidery on the eyes. And overall, they did a pretty good job shaping the dolphin and making it look accurate. Overall, this is actually one of the better plushes in this whole set because, well, it's a unique plush that Linxin didn't actually make, and overall, they did a pretty good job making it. The only really bad thing about this plush is that it doesn't have embroidered on fingers, but besides that, it's overall a great plush. Now let's move on to another remake plush, being the Grasscar Zombie. Now there's actually two designs of the redesigned Grasscar Zombie, being the first design and the second design. The only changes about them are the face. The first design uses the normal face but one eye smaller than the other, and the second design uses this exact same face as the normal zombies, except, well, the eyes are like facing different directions for some reason. And, well, everything that the Grasscar Zombie is wearing is made out of felt, so it could all get easily damaged, and also it's just only stitched on, so it could fall off. And a lot of the times that you see this plush, it might be missing pieces of clothing or even like the thing on the top of its head because, well, it's only made out of felt and it's like only slightly stitched on. So yeah, out of all these plushes instead, this is one that I definitely would not recommend getting because, well, it falls apart really easily and also is not as good as the original Linxin variant. But now let's move on to another unique plush in this set, being the Imp. Now this plush actually uses a unique design because, well, the face is unique and has all unique embroidery and basically doesn't have any other look like other zombies. It also has hair on the top of its head, which is made out of felt, so that could get damaged. And, well, one thing that's weird about this plush is that all the other body parts in this plush are made out of a normal plush material, but like the body of it is like made out of felt. Like where the chest is like made out of a felt material for some reason, which is a really weird change that they made for some reason. I don't get why they just didn't make it out of a plush material. But yeah, he's wearing a red coat and some like bluish purplish pants. I can't really tell because, well, they looks very similar. It kind of looks like a mix of both colors. Another weird thing about this plush is that for some reason his feet are pointy, which is just, why did they do that? It doesn't really make a lot of sense. But my biggest complaint about this plush is that, well, it's the wrong size. You see that this imp is basically the exact same size as the normal zombies, and it's not small enough. Because, well, imps are obviously supposed to be smaller than normal zombies, so yeah, it would have been better if they made, like, the plush slightly smaller than the others, but besides that, this plush is actually pretty good. But there are definitely better imp plushes like the Jazzwares one, so yeah, if you can't get the Jazzwares one though, this one's okay to get. Now let's go on to the next plush in the set, which is the Rodeo Zombie. Now this plush is actually pretty weird because, well, it's not from an official Plants vs Zombies game. And, well, overall this character is very obscure and barely has any known merchandise of it, and is overall really obscure. It's just like a promotional zombie. Basically, the only other things that this character was seen on was like a magnet set, and also it was like some stuff on like a sticker book. But besides that, this zombie is basically unknown except for, well, the plush. But one thing that's weird about this plush also is that it really doesn't look like the official Rodeo Zombie. You see, the official art of the Rodeo Zombie has like an orange and yellow vest, but this plush does not have that. And, well, the bandana around his neck and also like the shoes and the pants are also just all the wrong color, so it barely is based off of this plush. The only thing that really resembles the character itself is that, well, it has a white hat. But besides that, it really doesn't have any other similarities to the actual Rodeo Zombie. Also, for some reason, this zombie skin is green instead of like a normal gray color. Overall, this plush just seems to be really strange and has like a lot of mystery behind, well, why it was made in the first place. It's like such an obscure character and why it looks so inaccurate. But yeah, overall, I guess the plush is pretty good. It is a unique plush that was never made by Linxin, but the really one bad thing about it as well, it's not really accurate to the character itself. Also, the hat's made out of felt. But yeah, overall, this plush is just really strange, and we don't really know where it actually like comes from and why they made it so like inaccurate. Now let's move on to the next plush in this set, which is the Raw Zombie. Now, just like the Rodeo Zombie, his skin is green, and overall, they did a pretty good job making the Raw Zombie plush. And all the details that are needed are there, and overall, it looks overall pretty good, but like the one bad thing about it is that tons of details on this plush are made out of felt. You see, basically everything on its head and like also the rod that it's holding are made out of felt, so they could get easily damaged, and a lot of the times you'll see this stuff like with debris and dust on it. So yeah, definitely they did not use the best materials on this plush at all, but like the design overall is pretty good, but they had a really bad execution with like the materials that they used. Also, while looking for images of this plush, I found this like weird version of the Raw Zombie. It looks pretty normal, but it has a weird looking face on it. For some reason, the face is like facing opposite directions with the eyes, and overall it's just a really weird variant that I found, and it seems to only have like really one photo of it being this one. So yeah, overall it just seems to be some like sort of like obscure variant. Now let's move on to the next plush in this set, which is the Pirate Zombie. This is another copy of a Linxin plush, and overall they did an okay job making it, just like other Linxin copies. Overall, all the clothes and everything are accurate, and same thing with the bandana and the earring. The really thing that messes up this plush is the face of it. They made the face like too round and too small, and also like all the details are just kind of crammed onto the plush. And overall, I think they kind of messed up the face on this plush, which makes this plush overall a lot worse than it could have actually like been. Also, just like the imp, the body's made out of like a felt material, which is overall a really weird choice to make it out of, because they obviously had plush material because they used the head to make plush material, but not the body. So yeah, overall, just another really weird choice by this company to make. But yeah, overall, I would definitely recommend getting the original Linxin version because, well, it's not that rare and, well, but you could easily get it. So yeah, definitely would not recommend getting this version. There's also a big size of this version. Now let's move on to the next plush in this set, which is the Buccaneer Zombie. And, well, this is actually a unique plush, and overall, it's pretty good looking. It uses a face with like messed up eyes, which overall is a weird choice. I don't know why they just didn't use like normal eyes on it, but overall it still looks pretty good, and it has a normal mouth except, well, it has gold teeth on it. And overall they did a pretty good job of all the clothing on this plush, like the bandana, the scarf, and overall just all the clothes are pretty accurate looking, are made out of a pretty good material, so they won't fall apart. The only really that's bad about this plush is that the scarf and the bandana could fall off because, well, the bandana is only stitched on and the scarf could kind of get like unraveled from the plush. But besides that, they did a pretty good job making this plush. It also has some nice boots on it, which overall look pretty accurate. By far the worst part about this plush is the green skin because, well, that makes this plush a lot less accurate because, well, it's supposed to be gray. I don't really know why they made green skin zombies because, well, it's not accurate at all, but it's just overall a really weird choice from this company to do. And they did the same thing with the next plush in the set, which is the Swashbuckler Zombie. Just like the others in the set, they overall did a pretty good job with the face, adding some gold teeth to make it look more accurate to how the pirate zombies look. They also did a great job making the hat because, well, it is made out of a felt material with iron on it, but overall looks pretty nice, and you won't see it damaged too often because, well, it seems like these held up pretty well over the years. And it also has a beard on it made out of some, like, kind of like similar to hair material. I don't really know what the material is, but it's some sort of like soft, fluffy material. And overall, the clothes are very accurate. It has like a leather vest around his chest. And they overall did a pretty good job with the boots on this plush, and overall they did a great job making this plush in general, except for the fact that it has green skin. I still don't know why they did that, because it just makes the plushes overall less accurate. And I would like to know why they did it, because, well, it does look pretty cool overall, and I do like it, but it just isn't accurate to the game, and is overall just a really weird choice that no other company thought to make except for this one. But now moving on from the pirate zombies, let's move on to the cowboy zombies, starting off with the normal cowboy zombie. And this is another copy of a Linxin plush, and overall, just like other Linxin copies, they just kind of made like the Linxin plush just worse. And it uses all the exact same clothes except, well, the face is just having like different directions on the eyes. And just like other Linxin copies, there's big size versions of these plushes. And overall, the clothes on this plush are pretty accurate, except that they did make the felt material on like the chest and the arms and stuff, which is overall just a really weird choice. The hat's also made out of felt just like the Rodeo Zombie, so it could get easily damaged. But yeah, overall, it basically is just a lesser version of the Cowboy Zombie made by Linxin. I would definitely recommend getting the Cowboy Zombie made by Linxin because it's a lot better than this version. But now let's move on to the next person, which is the Green Cowboy Zombie. Yeah, it's basically just the Cowboy Zombie, but with green skin instead of gray skin. The hat is the exact same on the normal Cowboy Zombie, being made out of felt and could get easily damaged. But they do have a few unique features like the bandana and the clothes on it, overall looking pretty good, and I'm glad that they changed the bandana because overall I think the red bandana suits the Cowboy Zombie a lot more than like the purple one. And overall, I would actually say that this one's better than the Cowboy Zombie that they made in the set. And if you do want a Cowboy Zombie from the set, I would definitely recommend getting the green one instead of like the normal Cowboy Zombie, because, well, this one's just overall a lot better in my opinion, and overall just looks pretty good. Also, another thing that I noticed is that this plush actually has defined figures while the others don't. It really just seems kind of random when they add defined figures to this plush. But now let's move on to the final Cowboy Zombie, being the Bull Rider Imp. Now, this imp would usually ride a bull, but they didn't make a bull plush because, well, overall that would be kind of hard to make, and, well, this plush is also the exact same size as the normal imp, so yeah, once again, that's kind of an inaccuracy about this plush. But besides the size of it, this plush is overall pretty good, and they did a great job making the face being like all unique, and also the hat's made out of a felt material, so that could get damaged, but overall looks pretty nice. And all the clothes on this plush are accurate, but it does have pointy feet like the other imp, which overall is just a really weird choice. But overall, I think they did a great job making this plush, and they did a good job making all the clothes look pretty accurate. And I would definitely recommend getting this plush except for the size factor, but besides the size factor, this plush is overall really good. And well, now we're done with the international Plants vs Zombies plushes, but there's also some like exclusive plushes to the Chinese version of the game. Because, well, in China they had an exclusive version of the Plants vs Zombies game, so they have a few plushes based off of that, starting off with the Hammer Zombie. Overall, I'd say yeah, they did a pretty good job making the Hammer Zombie plush. It has a unique face that overall looks pretty nice, and it has a beard that's made out of a felt material, so they could get damaged, but overall looks pretty accurate. It has some bands around his arms which are made out of a felt material, so this could get damaged, and it could also fall off pretty easily, as I have seen some images of them just falling off. And overall, the rest of the plush is pretty accurate with the clothes, and also the hammer overall is pretty nice, and it's made out of a felt material. But the hammer could get detached from the hands of this plush, so I'd be careful with that, especially on the first design of this plush. And well, as you can see in this image, it also has a big size of it. But now let's move on to the next plush in the set, which actually has 4 variants of it, being the Bomb Zombie. Now the first variant is this variant with like these weird looking eyes looking in opposite directions. It also has a big size version of it. And the second design is the exact same, except the bomb on the plush has like a red fuse instead of a normal orange fuse that would be on the plush. And for the fourth design is this version, which just, well, has like a normal looking face and uses the exact same face as the first design of the Grasscar Zombie. Overall, the only changes about these versions are the face, so I'm just going to talk about like the rest of the plush because there's really no other changes about it besides the face. The clothes are overall made out of a great material, and there really isn't any felt on this plush except for like the bomb itself is made out, so that could get damaged, but overall it's a pretty good plush and has all the correct details on it. Also, the fuse of the bomb is made out of a yarn material, so that could get unraveled, and as you can see in a few images, it could like fall apart, which is a bad thing about this plush. But besides that, overall the plush is pretty good, and I would say that it's one of the better plushes like in the Kung Fu World series. And this plush is also more unique in this set because it has the most variants in like the entire set. And this plush is overall pretty cool, and I would definitely recommend getting it. But now let's move on to the next plush in this set, which is the Gong Zombie. Now this plush only has two designs, being the normal size and the big size, and a fun fact about this plush is I actually own the big size of it. But yeah, overall this plush is pretty good and it has a unique face, and overall the hair on this plush is pretty good and it's held up by a red piece of felt. So it could get damaged because it's just made out of felt, just like the gong on this plush. So yeah, some materials on this plush could get damaged, but it is a pretty good plush and overall it's quite accurate. And a piece on the gong's just glued on, so I'd be careful with that because that could just fall off because over the years the glue like dries out and could easily fall off. But yeah, overall this plush is pretty good and it's quite accurate just like the other Kung Fu World plushes. I would definitely recommend getting it. Now let's move on to the final Kung Fu World plush in this set, being the God of Wealth. Now this plush is actually a boss zombie, and overall one bad thing about this plush is the size of it. Now one thing that I don't really understand is that they made this plush really small compared to the other zombies, but they made the imps a normal size. Because the God of Wealth is supposed to be a bigger zombie, but it isn't, and they made the imps bigger than this plush, so it basically makes no sense at all. But they did actually make a big size of the God of Wealth, which is extremely rare, and it's probably the rarest plush in the entire set, besides the next plush that we're going to be looking at. And this is basically one of the only plushes in the set that are rare, besides like all the big size versions of these plushes. But yeah, overall the God of Wealth plush has a lot of details squeezed onto the plush, and overall they did a great job with it. The hat that the God of Wealth is wearing is made out of a felt material, so they could get damaged, and overall the embroidery on the face is pretty good. And it uses the exact same like hairish material like on the Swashbuckler's beard. And the things that it's holding in both of his hands are made out of a felt material, so they could get damaged and they could also fall off. But overall, one cool thing about this plush is that the coat on it is extremely detailed and has like a bunch of gold details on it, which overall is pretty cool and one of the coolest things about the plush. And it overall seems that they put a lot of work into making this plush, but it was also produced a lot less because it's extremely rare, which makes sense because they put a lot of details onto it and it probably cost more money to make than the others in the set. But yeah, overall this is probably one of the rarest plush in the whole set compared to the others, and overall I would definitely recommend getting it if you see it because it's extremely rare. But now let's move on to the next plush in this set and the final plush in this set, which is extremely rare and basically has no documentation, being the Camo Cowboy Zombie. Now there are two designs of this plush, each only having one image, being the first design and the second design. Now both designs are exactly the same, except the first design has like brown on the stomach and the second design has the exact same camo pattern used on the sleeves of the zombie. And overall no one actually knows what this plush is based off of, so overall it just seems to be kind of a random plush that this company made, and the hat's made out of a felt material, so it could get damaged if you somehow manage to find this plush in the first place. And overall, the clothes on these plushes seem to be made out of the same material as others in the set, but I can't confirm that because we only have two images of these plushes. So it's kind of hard to tell what materials they're made out of and how good they are made in quality. But yeah, overall I would say that these plushes are pretty good, except they're basically impossible to get because we only have one image of each design. And who knows, there might be even more designs, but we don't know because we only have one image of each design host, so who really knows how many designs of the plush there are. But yeah, this is by far the rarest plush in the whole set, and it's by far the most mysterious because we actually don't know what it's based off of. But yeah, which plush in this set is your favorite? Mine's probably the God of Wealth, but comment down below yours, and yeah, have a great day.